Hey guys, so today what I wanted to go over was I had been thinking a lot about how, certain things that I was doing in Chisao weren't working out, whether I was having a really hard time blocking or just reaching too much with my attacks, getting rocked off my center, you name it, I was going through it. And a few weeks ago, I started thinking about certain things that I could do on my own to help me improve when I do end up working with a partner. So one thing to always remember is that there's no replacement for Chisao practicing by yourself. You always need to have that partner, and you really need a lot of flight time doing it. Hours upon hours upon hours. But the thing is, going through the motions and just doing Chisao for the sake of doing it isn't going to help you improve. There has to be a lot of awareness in terms of what it is you're doing, what it is that you need to work on, and how you're having success when you are rolling with a partner. So what I ended up thinking about, and this was just more of a culmination of years and years of nagging, and things just started to sink in. You know how it is, when you're a little kid and your parents tell you, how things are going to be as an adult, and you think you got to figure it out. Finally, when you're an adult, you're like, damn, they were right. Well, Sifu was right.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
So the 4 things that you can always go back to on your own, all right, when you are having problems in Chisao, really come back to the 4 basic foundational skills in Wing Chun. The stance, the punch, Silam Tao, the first form, and then shifting, all right? And I'll try to go through them with some quick tips. Hopefully, if not, maybe we'll get around to doing a part 2 video. All right, enough of the jokes. So the first thing is, if I can demonstrate with Sifu, if we're Chisaoing and he's, what tends to happen with me is if I'm rolling with somebody that's muscling a lot, you want to try to stay relaxed, but what ends up happening is I kind of get tossed around like a rag doll. So if Sifu is really just kind of coming in and moving around, all right, there's a lot of things going on here, all right, other than it just looks ugly as hell, all right. For one, I have no control of my center. Well, where does that start with? That starts from practicing the stance, all right. And really from day one, you sit there and you stand in the stance and, you're trying to figure out where it is, you're trying to hold it. And then once you start going into deeper drills, more complex drills, all right, all that stuff tends to go out the window. Not that you have to think about it so much, but the thing is, you need to be aware of it. All right, how does what I'm practicing now, how will that translate later on when I'm doing something like Chisao? Well, the thing is, a lot of the principles behind Chisao is, one, you want to be able to control your opponent. Well, how do you control your opponent? It's by actually feeling their center. In order to feel their center, you have to be able to control your own center. All right? Really, the only advice that I can give to you is just focus on the stance. I've, the last few weeks, probably been spending at least maybe about 20 to 30 minutes per day just standing, watching TV, brushing my teeth, not for 30 minutes, but I'll find every opportunity as well to just try and sit in my stance as natural as I can. And the thing is, first part that comes along with that is that hip tuck, all right? Typically, we're told to kind of stand, when we stand up straight, our back is arched. However, the Wing Chun way is that hip tuck, because that's what connects the legs to the body, all right? The hard part about this isn't so much actually tucking the hip, but it's finding out where the tension is in the rest of the body. My tendency is that, I get tension a lot in my quads. Well, I've been trying to play around with it and make sure that everything feels relaxed, whether it's from the quads, the knees, the calves, so that all that is kind of getting rooted to the ground, all right? Now, I'm not necessarily rooting my stance in the ground, but I'm letting the ground support my body, if that makes sense, all right? What happens is, in that little bit of Chisao that I was doing with Sifu, is that you saw myself rocking back and forth, all right? I had no control of my vertical. My body was going back onto the heels, going back onto the balls of my feet. And then on top of that, my arms were kind of like an accordion. Well, if you don't have control of your center, you're going to end up compensating in other ways. For me, what happens with me is that my arms will get overextended or they'll collapse. If I collapse, that's not enough tension in my triangle. If I'm overextending, I'm going to start using muscle, all right? So that's that part with, with the stance. When you incorporate the punch teaches you a lot of different things, but mainly what I'm learning from it right now is not just the technical aspects, you know, about leading with the elbow and then getting that shoulder stretch, but it's also how does the body support the punch? My punches used to be, and still are to some extent, but whenever I would punch, I would actually rock off my center. All right, this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but I would punch and my fist would lead. All right, so the attack is actually coming out with the hand rather than being supported by the body. All right, so you want to learn how to maintain center control when your arms are moving, when you're punching. All right, that translates when you're actually rolling and you're going through all those motions, is that you're controlling your center no matter what hand position that you're in, wherever your triangle gets manipulated to, all right? The third thing, Silam Tao. This was a big thing, and the one thing that I'll focus on the most is that first section. I'm sure everyone that's an instructor, anyone that is training in Wing Chun will tell you, you know, that you might spend 40 minutes doing that first section, or 15 minutes of doing that first section, but however much you spend, the majority of it is going to be on that first section of the form, all right? And what you're developing there is knowing where the elbow lines. That's one of the basic developments of that. What I tended to see in my role, and you may not be able to see it from this angle right here, but what I would do is, you know, you think about the three motions that happen in there, three mother motions. Tan, inside line, fuksao, neutral line, wusao, outside line. Well, the problem that I was having in a lot of my chisao was that, especially with the neutral line, fuksao and tanzao, either my fuksao was too far extended and my tanzao tended to be pinched in too much. You got to think that those three elbow lines, there's not a lot of adjustment that's being made from one motion to the next. All right, so you really have to know where that is. If you know where that is, then you're actually going to have pretty decent coverage, you know, when you are rolling with a partner. All right. The problem that I was having was, well, Tanza would be too far pinched in, and then that attack was just a clear line for my partner. Every single time I would get tagged. Okay, so really focus on that. The last thing is the shift. All right, you hear a lot of different applications or different reasons as to why the shift is important. Some will say that, well, it's to dodge the attack, all right? Get them off your center so that they don't, you know, that they can't hit you, all right? The thing is, the development of the shift goes to how to control your center in motion, all right? The problem that I was having in simply just practicing the shift was that, one, I was overturning way too much. So there was actually no focus towards my target. The second thing is I would actually lose that hip tuck. For instance, the way that I would be doing it wrong is here I'm in Yiji Kiming Ma, have my center, I shift, but then what happens is I might rise up and my back becomes arched rather than staying vertical. All right, so you have to really focus on maintaining that hip tuck all the way through, okay? Not start with the hip tuck, turn, and then regain it, okay? That consistency, that maintenance has to be all the way through. Now, the last parts of that is targeting. It's easy to kind of let yourself go. You know, you shift and you turn, and you turn, and you turn. Well, I started to figure out that the reason why, even though I was still focusing on trying to keep that hip tucked, I still kept losing it. It wasn't consistent. And I realized that I had a targeting issue. It's one thing if I'm practicing the punch because I have a visual right here, where it's supposed to go. But the thing is, your body is the one that has to be on target, all right? Body leads everything, body is behind everything, body supports everything. So when you shift, the fix that I had was that whenever I would shift, I would try to make sure that my back shoulder still was aimed. Now I wasn't trying to, you know, jam it forward, but just to make sure that I still had this awareness of where that target was, where the center was, all right? Target meaning towards my opponent or towards my partner, all right? If you see, that shift isn't as wild, it's not as uncontrolled like this, but it's a tighter shift, more control with the body, all right? The way that translates when you're working in Chisao is you're going to be moving around. You're not just going to be with your partner stationary doing everything. You're actually going to be moving. He might attack. I might have to adjust my body because of the force coming in, but the thing is, I don't want to go off the line like this, all right? If I try to counter, if I try to attack back, there's too much time. There's too much lag time there. Gives him a chance to set up, maybe even be a step ahead of me at that point. But he comes in with a punch. I adjust, but I still know where that target is. I still have a clear line to come and counter. Okay? Hopefully all that stuff makes sense. I did write it out in case you are on the Windy City Facebook page. I wrote about the stance, the punch, first form. Still working on the last one with the shift, but if you watch this, then I just saved you probably about 10 minutes of reading. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got something from it, and good luck.